Well, welcome back today to Just Drive It. Today we're going to be doing compression tests and all the fun stuff that goes along with it. Come along with us. Okay, part of what we're going to be doing today, and as you can see, we got a pen and a piece of paper. We got our compression gauge and a backpack full of tools. What we've been needing to do since the No Name Nationals is we've been needing to get back in here and actually finding out which cylinders are giving us the worst blow by, or if all of them are. So we're getting ready to pull this engine in order to get it rebuilt. Only going to be touching the short block, but we want to see what kind of health the engine actually is in and see actually how well we performed with the times that we turned in, considering we weren't able to tune it. We ran it as is when we got there, and we had a lot of blow by. I mean, in all honesty, we had a lot of blow by. So we'll see what happens. So okay, for this particular exercise and what we're going to be doing, we're going to need a few tools. Flathead screwdriver. We're going to use that to take and pop the clips, and also to crank over the engine at the solenoid over here. We may actually get another one to stick down in the carburetor to keep the carburetor open, or we may just use the springs there and tie them off to something to keep the carburetor open during our compression test. Besides that, I got a 3/8 wrench. We're going to be taking the leads off of my coil. The reason I'm going to be pulling the leads off the coil is I want to be extra careful. I was running a compression test on the 72 Ford F100, and that ended up causing me trouble because I burned up the Petronics unit. I don't want to, so I'm actually going to remove the reluctor off of there for the Petronics, and I'm going to disconnect it. That way, as I turn it over, I don't have to worry about anything. Other things we're going to be using, we've got a ratchet. In my case, it's got a swivel to it there. We're going to need a 5/8 socket, and we've got another swivel. Final tool is going to be our compression gauge, and it's actually set up to where you can actually remove it, install it, click in, and do your compression test. We're going to go through, record all of our numbers. I'm not going to show all of it, but we may show one or two being done. Okay, one of the things that some people may tell you is to mark your spark plug wires. Part of the reason I like these old Ford Motorsports like this is it actually has the wire number actually on here, and if you know your timing order, your firing order, you can put them back in pretty easy. Now, I know not everybody is going to have been familiar with the Petronics unit. In this case, I've got an Igniter 2, which is a little bit more high performance one. Ooh, that ain't. But this is actually a magnet that's picked up by this piece called a reluctor wheel, certain other different types of terms. But this moving through here triggers this, which is what gives you your ignition. I'm gonna pull this off, set it aside, and then I'm gonna come back through and I'm actually gonna disconnect the positive side of this particular unit. Actually, probably even the negative side as well. So, okay, one of the things I made sure to do, you see my connection here, I actually used a pretty heavy gauge wire to make sure that I didn't have any voltage drop in between my switch and my coil. I've got this disconnected. This switch here is actually off. I actually have my ignition on a separate switch because of the way I had to wire things up for the No Name Nationals. We may change that here to where it's actually on the key again, but for the moment I've actually got this set to where I have a switch for the ignition. So our next move will be go in here, do our numbers, and run our different cylinders. In this case, unlike the Mopars and the Chevys, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's how our numbers are out. We're going to run a compression test. All right, we've got this spark plug out. This is our #1 spark plug. We're running rich. We knew that from before. We'll take our compression gauge, feed the hose, install it in there. We're going to take this. Here's our gauge. Release pressure. The other thing we're going to do, even though the ignition switch is off, the key is off, we've got this in park, so it's not going to move. What you can do is you can take your flathead screwdriver, and over here on your solenoid you have an S and an I. If you go through and short across the power terminal to the S terminal, you'll actually get the starter to kick over. So that's what we're going to do. We also put our springs here on the opposite edge so that now we're thoroughly open. Now what I may do, that needs to be staying open, so I'm going to take and get another screwdriver and put it in there to keep that open. So now with that open, we'll come over here. All right, we've got approximately 140 PSI, which is actually pretty good. We'll go along to the next one. I'll bring you in on the next one. Okay, this ain't bad, but it ain't good either. It's not within the spread that we need it to be. But we've got 3 cylinders here that are 150 or better. Number 3 is 150, 5 is 153, 7 is 150. But number 4 is at 122, and that's the side we actually were having a lot of the blow by coming out of. So we're gonna have to see how that looks when we pull everything apart. And I mean, I know it needs a rebuild, so it's gonna get rebuilt, but this isn't too bad. 140, 138, 150, 122, 153, 145, 150, and 148. So some of them are within specs, some of them aren't. I'll have to go through and see what the compression ratio, what the actual PSI of this engine should be. But not too bad, just I know that we have oiling issues, so it's coming out. Alright, as you can see, new clothes, it's a different day, but you can see the tilt on the tires, front ends up, engine's out of the car. So we got some decent numbers on the compression test, but we pulled it out. We found some other issues on the engine as well, the teardown, which will be in another video. But you can't really see the taper that was in that block and stuff like that on the cylinders. So right now we're going to leave it with that. And if you like this, please like, subscribe, Rumble if you're on Rumble. Go in there and do me a favor and hit hashtag noname500, and you'll find the different groups that are trying to get their subs up to different channels for qualifying for the No Name Nationals this year. Give them a hand. It'll be much appreciated. Just drive it.